Mickey Mouse.
That's how we start.
Yeah.
Welcome. We have part 2 of our brand new segment, Spirit Science.
Woo!
Very exciting. Excuse me. We were going to do 3 parts on the like energy, frequency, vibration thing, but then we started talking about it, and Nick and his research started realizing there's just so much overlap with the the frequency and vibration thing.
Yeah, it's like essentially when you really get down to the science of it, like frequency causes vibration.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's they're kind of synonymous.
So point being, we're going to just cover that in one episode, and then we can pivot in the future to do other topics like crystals or meditation or whatever. Really,
Celestial bodies. We have so many. I mean, it's science. We can go literally a million directions.
Yeah.
But if you didn't catch the first one, the reason we're doing energy, frequency, vibration up front is because of the quote from Nikola Tesla. Like, if you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration.
True.
True.
So I did grab the definition. I thought it'd be cool. Like I
did too.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Well, how about I read frequency and you read vibration?
Hell yeah.
Okay. Frequency. It's measured in hertz. It's the number of occurrences of a repeating event per unit of time. Now I feel like I understand it even less.
Really? Frequency. Well, okay. Because think about it. There's kind of 2 ways you can look at frequency. You could look at it as like, what is the frequency in which I eat pizza? Once every week, once every 2 weeks,
so that
whatever.
would be 1 hertz.
Right.
1 hertz a week.
That'd be one tummy hurt.
Yeah, I was about to say, I do be hurt after I.
There's a frequency of 1, my tummy hurts from eating pizza. We just had pizza for lunch. And it was
that's why I was thinking about it. Yeah. But then think of it in more of like a scientific like frame. It's like a wave, like a sound wave or a light wave or a
All right, I'm with you.
He's like, I'm understanding. Keep going.
I get it now. I get it. Why'd we have to choose like a surfer bro? He chose us, to be honest.
It's like a wave. I'm sorry, I'm just writing it down.
Okay. Everybody write it down. It's like a wave. But with like a light wave or a sound wave or something like that, you would measure the quote unquote frequency in like how many times that thing, whatever it is, goes forward and back.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you get
that makes sense. Like the complete cycle. If we're talking in wave, it's the complete cycle of the wave.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like from the crest to the trough or whatever the term is. I don't know. 10th grade.
Trough sounds cool.
I think that's what it is.
It makes me think of pigs. Wait, what was you said the peak?
The crest.
Isn't it the crest and the trough, or am I just making
crest and trough?
No, it's the crest and the barrel.
Dude, that's surfing again. Bro. Can you? You're thinking about surfing again, dude. Also,
whoops.
Nice shirt, Alex.
Thanks, dog.
I like it. I can't see it right there. It is.
It is. I was right. It's crest and trough.
Hey,
the top is the crest and the lower part is the trough.
You're teaching me about the trough.
Yeah. There's this thing that happens where Ryan thinks about pigs a lot, and I was like, pig, trough. Okay.
You want to know something funny there?
What?
You know how growing up I always had this like. Pigs are just they're such amazing. They're just such amazing animals in nature because first of all they're funny.
Ryan's favorite animals are pigs and ducks.
For sure, like they're on there for sure. Like as a child, I always begged my parents for a pig or a duck. Well, now my dad has like 150 ducks.
Yeah,
but I never did get a pig. But you know what? I think there's something to that because I never knew this until I read my dad's book. I never knew that before he was a carpenter, he was a pig farmer.
Huh?
Right. I learned stuff about my dad in that book that I did not know. He was a pig farmer. Our family goes back farming hogs.
That's special.
Maybe that's that gene in my brain. I always thought pigs were so funny and so cool.
You got a pig blood memory in there?
I guess. Yeah.
It's in your DNA. Like you want to be around pig. Like you're called to do it. Dude,
that's what I'm saying.
How cool would it be if one day you like just got a few pigs,
like a pet pig, yeah,
or a few?
I'm talking a whole farm.
Nah, I mean that is your destiny.
Yeah,
if we boil it down.
But dude, they're so smart.
Oh, they're very intelligent.
They're like the fifth smartest animal on the planet or something.
Can I potentially blow your mind with a pig fact?
Sure,
real quick.
I love pig facts.
It's a little different than a rock fact, but it's a pig fact. Okay, ready? All right. Do you know about wild boar, right?
Uh-huh.
And then you have like your domesticated pig. Would you like assume that those are two completely different genus, like two different entity, two different kinds of animal.
I would assume so. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I mean, that's what I've thought my entire life. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I found out recently, and I like saw it on a podcast, and then I had to go and dig and verify it, and it's real. This is insane. That when a domesticated pig like gets out of their domicile and is in the wild, in just a matter of 6 weeks, they begin to transform.
They grow tusks.
They grow tusks.
What?
They grow hair. Their hide becomes thicker. They become more aggressive. They eat more. They quite literally like metamorphosize, whatever, into another animal.
Wow.
So like the hairy, scary, wild boar that you picture in your mind is literally a domesticated pig.
Wow.
Just in the wild. In
That
a matter of
is wild.
6 weeks, they start to transform.
And underneath it all, they just bacon.
Oh.
We're eating lunch, and Alex goes, respectfully, I think we're all on one team.
Is that how is that how I talk, Ryan?
Yeah.
You're talking about the man in the mirror, homie.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah, that's how he talks. Respectfully.
Yeah. You've heard his voice on the show. You know that's
I
how he
did
sounds.
verify pigs are on the smartest animals list.
Yeah,
They're
like
very-
top 5.
Guess what else is up there?
What?
Raccoon.
Oh, I wouldn't have guessed that.
Wow.
The rest seem are pretty obvious, like dolphins, crows.
Crows are hella smart. They mourn their dead. They have like
Dang.
they low key have like funerals.
A crow talked to me once, and it freaked me out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for real.
Where?
My wife and I'd say that for their sake, not yours.
Yeah, yeah.
But we are downtown here in Wilmington, and there's apparently this like locally notorious crow that lives in one of the alleyways down there, and we didn't know. And we were just walking through, and like we were meeting some friends for dinner that night. And when we were at the car, and we were saying, we all both parked on the street, and we're like, "Bye, have a good night." Then the crow from down the alleyway said, in a kind of a really high pitched sing songy voice, it was like, "Bye, have a good night."
No.
And we were like, "What?"
You could see it. You could see the crow.
Yeah.
Dude, that would freak me out.
It lives there.
It lives in the alley.
Yeah.
Dude,
Like in the
and just
building.
talks to people.
Yeah.
Yo, they're so smart. He's probably like trying to scare people.
Or maybe he's just very social.
Yeah, maybe.
Or maybe when people get scared, they drop all their food.
Oh.
It's
then
terrorizing us. Quoth the raven. Bye. Have a good night. It was pretty scary. I'm not going to lie. Like, whoa.
Was it over by the Edgar Allan Poe place?
No, that's out by the beach.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What's it called? Post Tavern or something?
Post Tavern.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, this is the frequency and vibration episode. I forgot.
Yeah.
Not the pigs and crows episode.
Oh, yeah. Pigs are very scientific.
That's, I mean,
Actually.
Can we have a pigs and crows episode?
absolutely. It'll come out right after the esoteric SpongeBob episode.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a hell of a week. Y'all don't want to miss it.
We still haven't done esoteric ratatouille.
Yo, I forgot.
Yeah, that needs
Dude,
to be on there.
Let's have a whole separate kids show where we do esoteric bluey.
Esoteric
I'm
cocoa
gonna-
melon.
I'm going to volunteer. Can I head
Esoteric
this one?
baby shark.
I'm
Yeah.
going to head this project up.
You get the cocoa melon.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right. So, I can't believe we got off on such a tangent. Okay. Did we wrap up the definition of frequency?
Yeah. It was like
waves.
It was like a sentence. Yeah.
Yeah. My definition is basically the same thing. Frequency in physics, the number of waves that pass a fixed point in unit time. So I wrote down the like physics version.
Mhm.
Your version is the most broad version that covers
I
everything.
did that on purpose.
Right.
Because I was looking at the physics versions, and I was like, that's a little too technical.
Sure. Yeah. And then vibration is an oscillation of the parts of a fluid or an elastic solid whose equilibrium has been disturbed, or of an electromagnetic wave. So it's a little weird.
It's particle shaking.
Yeah, and yes, exactly. It's particles shaking, and it's like the frequency that those things are shaking at cause the effect of the frequency is the vibration.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why they're like basically the same thing, because it's like vibration is the product of particles vibrating at a certain frequency.
So like sound is the frequency, music is the frequency, and dancing is the vibration.
That's a poetic way to look at it. Yeah.
So naturally, it's like, why are we talking about this stuff in the first place?
Yeah.
Well, I love the concept that, like, you know, taking the science, which all science really is, you know, if you break it down, it's just like people trying to objectively understand the known phenomena of the universe, right? Like, it's just trying to understand the universe. And in my opinion, the universe contains all realities that we know that exist and can observe, you know? Unfortunately, we are like kind of at that point where I think like the mainstream hasn't fully accepted that there is a little bit more, but
it's getting close.
It's getting very close. Like, I think we're there, but it's like,
today our subject matter is going to cover a lot of that as well.
right.
Like how we are getting there.
Yeah.
As a race, as a human race.
We're on the cusp of discovering this stuff from a scientific perspective. It's just not like everyone knows about it and accepts it yet. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But I think we're there. Like, dude, especially with, you know, stuff I know personally and people I've interacted with and studies with my dad and the beings and all that. And it's like, we're in a crazy time right now where we're discovering a lot of really cool stuff.
Well, think about this. A couple of the most, let's just say, like kind of out there practices in science that are recognized by all scientific minds in the world have emerged in the past few decades, being, well, I mean, quantum physics, it's more than a few decades, but like the serious pursuit of it in the past 20, 30 years has been big time. Like it's been a huge focus of the scientific community. Quantum physics and string theory. Those are two like weird. They're like
right, fringe science.
But they are fundamentally recognized by all scientific minds. Like, you know, whether it's like Neil deGrasse Tyson, you know, to even like creationist scientists recognize these fundamentals. So both sides of your spectrum, like, well, I would say Neil deGrasse Tyson seems to be more spiritually agnostic. Like he's not like, no such thing, it's bullshit, whatever. He's more like, I'm a scientist and I never cut off a possibility in my mind until the data conclusively shows that it should be cut off. So he keeps an open mind, but he's like waiting to see like physical evidence. And then you have someone on the opposite side of the spectrum, like let's say Bill Nye. Bill Nye, who is like very like devoutly atheist and like no spirituality, none of that. It's only both of them accept string theory, quantum physics, like quantum mechanics, even though they are so fringe.
You know what's funny? I'm glad you brought that up because like I can't wait for the day that they're humbled and they see that like the reality behind what is. And like that's something that actually Dad and I just did an interview recently with actually Molly, who we recently just had on the show, Molly Adler. And we went on her show. It's not quite out yet. It might be by the time this episode airs. But she asked a specific question. I can't even remember the question, but Dad's response was funny. She was like, what does the CIA think about like why they haven't come forward with the knowledge or something like that? And Dad was like, well, you know, according to what they're telling us, or maybe it was like, how do you think that the world will receive disclosure and all that? You know, do you think there'll be chaos, riots, whatever? And Dad was like, no, I don't think it'll be like that at all. You know, according to what they're truly concerned about, it's like the people will be fine. They'll see on the TV, you know, there's some UFO or whatever, and they'll go back to normal life. They won't care, just like every day, you know? But it's the academics, the mainstream accepted body of knowledge. It's like, what about all these people out there who've been teaching it a certain way, writing these books, you know, saying this is the way it is, this is the way it is, you know? Are they going to be qualified to teach?
Right. It would theoretically discredit a lot of them.
It's gonna bring them all back down to a square one where we're all at the bottom and we have to figure out what's really going on here. And you know, all these people in this industry who are like atheism, this, that. It's like they're gonna all of a sudden be like, oh my God, like I was wrong, you know?
Yeah, and I think that is, even if you just think of it from the lens of like being a good scientist, it's not good to be so closed-minded. The entire purpose of science is to keep an open mind and let's just try to understand the truth with no bias.
Yeah.
No bias at all.
Right.
Meaning if something comes around that is like suggesting that the soul is real, which like obviously we here believe that it absolutely is. That's what the show's about. But like a lot of these scientists are holding out on that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
you know? And a lot of them, if there was like, if it was right in front of their face, some sort of evidence or proof or whatever, a lot of them would still they'd feel like they have to like dig their feet in the sand because they have decades dedicated to thinking like this. But like a real true blue scientist would be excited at the prospect of learning more about the universe.
Yeah, I've actually met people like that at NASA, JPL, Harvard, et cetera, pick a university. And it's crazy, man. Like meeting neuroscientists who are seeing, like the neuroscientist who worked on the Beyond Skinwalker episode. And like, dude, just like the shock in his eyes when he realized like, oh my God, like this is something I've never seen. I don't understand, but it's real. It's happening right in front of me. Let's keep studying.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Let's keep going. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
But before we get into like a lot more of your like study-based material, I'd like to quickly go over some of the mythology. This is the reason I was particularly excited about this episode, because like there's a trend in the ancient past where different religious systems or traditions had some sort of message about the universe being created through the word of God.
Yeah, this is good. So you give the mythology, and then I'll give you the science to back it up.
Yeah.
I like that. That's cool. We should maybe like continue that kind of like format for this. Like
that's kind of how like
I like
to
that.
think about it. You know, like it's bringing both. It's spirit science. It's bringing the spirit, what the claims are, but then bringing the science to be like, well, maybe there's something.
I think in the energy one we kind of flipped it and did the science first. But I think I like this idea. I want to hear.
So obviously we're going to start with the third Hermetic law, the principle of vibration. This has been taught since before society was anywhere near what it is today. We're talking thousands upon thousands of years. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. We know that to be true. It's known as the Brownian movement, the Brownian motion. They know verifiably, without a shadow of a doubt, that every atomic particle is constantly vibrating.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, there's physical matter because they vibrate so close together.
Hey, man, that's the science.
Right.
I thought you were hitting me with the mythology.
Well, for that one specifically, but yeah, we're going to go.
Okay.
But it's just like, this is proven.
Oh, yeah.
Everything vibrates. It's just true. What if your thoughts vibrated? You know what I mean? What if your emotions vibrated? What if there were vibrations and other realities that we don't know how to detect that have a meaning?
Keep that stuff in mind for later, people.
So here's in the Bible, John chapter 1, verse 1. This is like probably the most famous example of this of all time. In the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. So like right there, the book of John is probably the most famous gospel, and we know that it was written by Neoplatonists, Greeks, which is people who were more in line with like, you could say Gnostic thinking, you could say Plato kind of thinking, which Plato would deserve his own entire episode. But like, the idea here is that like this group of people who wrote this text were not just strict Christians. It was like they had this concept that there is an invisible absolute reality. Like it's like what Plato taught, the shadow of the cave, or the allegory of the cave. Like there's a light, the sun is outside the cave. The cave is the metaphor of this like illusory reality that we're experiencing. The sun is outside, it's shining into the cave. Well, we're inside the cave, right? Let's hypothetically, like we're in it. We can't see the sun out the cave, but we can see the shadow on the wall that is casting from the light outside. So like it's a several thousand-year-old metaphor that Plato created to say like we don't live in the reality where we can see the true light. We're seeing the shadow on the wall. Don't get caught up on that. It's not the whole truth. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This line of thinking was who wrote the Gospel of John.
Yeah.
Which like that should upend the whole thing. Like people don't realize that.
Yeah. And I mean, we know the original Greek translation was instead of word,
it was logos.
It was logos.
Yeah, we said that in episode 1.
Mind.
Yeah, the mind.
In the beginning,
right,
was the mind. Like which is just the universe is mental. That's this whole
Right.
Really, if you want to get into spirit science, which you're in it, I mean, you're here. Thank you. Bye. That's the backdrop of this whole thing. The universe works mentally. Kendrick Lamar Barr.
Oh, he said that?
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Wow.
He said, I know everything. I know the universe works mentally.
So let's see what Krishna says. This is in the Bhagavad Gita. I'm not very familiar with the Bhagavad Gita. Like I didn't grow up, Hindu, so I didn't sit down reading it a lot. So I'm kind of like new to actually reading some of the texts. And it can be confusing from a Western mindset, just speaking English and having to get acclimated with all these terms and stuff. But it's the Bhagavad Gita. I guess it's chapter 7, verse 8. I don't know if it's in chapters or verses or whatever exactly. But it says, O son of Kunti, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound and ether and ability in man. So like Krishna is the same, like, kind of like the Christ figure.
Yeah, Christ consciousness.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's the sense that like he is God, but also like the God that like comes down and manifests to like redeem people. But then you have this concept of the supreme higher God known as Brahma.
Yeah.
Which in their,
it's like Jesus and God.
Yeah, exactly. It's like this great mind, but in Hinduism, it's like this great mind, Brahma, Krishna. It goes by many names, different aspects of the same deity. It vibrated reality into existence strictly through the word Om, which again, it's like, there's the belief that even like Rosicrucians tell you in their first module, chanting the word Om, it stimulates certain energy centers in the way that the sound moves through the throat from the stomach and leaves, and it just stimulates all these different things. There's supposed to be a power to the actual word itself. Feels good to say.
Well, we know that it has power because it got Duncan Trussell on our podcast.
That's true. And then he did it with us.
Yeah.
All right. And then Krishna goes on to say, I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. I am the object of knowledge, the purifier, and the syllable Om. I am also the RG. I'm not sure if that's, I think that's like abbreviated for Rig, like the Rig Vedas. It's a body of text. So I'm just assuming it means I'm the syllable of the Rig, the Sama, and the Yajur Vedas. I am the syllable Om. God is, in this text, God is saying, I am Om. I am the vibration.
Damn.
I am the invisible sound that holds the universe together.
That's high.
And this is a Native American Indian myth creation story. I thought this was pretty cool. In the center of the universe, she sang. In the midst of the waters, she sang. In the midst of heaven, she sang. In the center, she sang. Her singing made all of the worlds of the spirits, the worlds of the people, the worlds of the creatures, the worlds of the gods. In this way, she separated the quarters. Singing, she separated. Upon the face of heaven, she placed her song. Upon the face of water, she placed her song. Thus she placed her song. Thus she placed her will. Thus wove she her design. Thus sang the spider. Thus she thought. Laguna, this is the Laguna Pueblo Native American Indian myth.
That's beautiful.
So you have these different cultures from around the world, and there's even more. Like you can get into the story of, I didn't even write them all down, but you have like Egyptian versions where like Thoth is speaking the word into reality. But I didn't pull from that because I was like, I don't know, because depending on the era of the Egyptian dynasties, like the myth was a little different. Like in some, they think Atum rose from this primordial water of chaos and like ordered universe into, existence. Some versions say that Ra sprang forth from this primordial mound and created the universe with his eyes, seeing everything. And then some say Thoth vibrated it. So I was like, I don't know. I'm going to stay away from that one. You know?
But it is wild. Like if you try to think about the majority of creation stories that you've heard out there, almost all of them are either like speaking, singing, or music.
Thinking.
Yeah. Thinking. Yeah. Which, I mean, we've talked about, and we talked about in the energy episode some, and we'll talk about more here. There are tons of beliefs out there that thought it produces waves, measurable waves. I mean, we can measure them. So yeah, that's like most creation stories. Creation is brought about through vibration, and it's wild that in this modern day we finally learned everything's vibrating.
Yeah, literally. So there's a few more things I want to hit in the ancient world, and then we'll move forward to the, like the evidence. But it's crazy, man, because like the ancients all had this idea across the world, separated by oceans. You know what I mean? Different cultures, Native Americans over here in the West, and Egyptians, and even the Greeks. Well, I'm about to read some Pythagoras and what he believed about the universe being a harmonic frequency, you know? And it's like we have this idea that somehow the universe vibrated into reality by this intelligent mind, this intelligent order. And it's like, man, that's just so like amazing to consider.
Mhm.
But then there's also the idea that the whole universe itself is a cosmic symphony.
It is, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and also they go so far as to depict, there's 4 icons of Shiva, 4 popular icons of Shiva. I don't have them all memorized off the top of my head. I'm just quoting a college course I took a long time ago. But one of them is this stone. It's like this little stone monument of Shiva that's just like an icon of his image. But then the really popular icon that we've all seen, whether you know it or not, is the Ring of Fire where Shiva's dancing, right? And what that's symbolic of is the cycle of creation and destruction in the universe. But it's Shiva just dancing for all of eternity, going through the movements of the cycles of life and death for all eternity. It's a big dance. But also, the placement of the celestial bodies is a big song. So Pythagoras had this whole theory. He actually had a whole mystery system that not a whole lot is known about, you know, to wider audiences. But he was like kind of the father of like sacred geometry and that kind of thing. And like it's attributed to him to have developed the scale, like the musical scale,
Right.
you know, by learning there's certain mathematical ratios. He could divide a string and make, you know, chords and scales and whatever. But he had this entire theory called the music of the spheres,
Right.
where the 7 classical planets, back then they had 7 classical planets, and he went so far as to say that these planets emit, because of their orbit around each other being in such a perfect harmony, that it's emitting this cosmic song.
Yeah.
That's
The
ordering,
resonance between all of those celestial bodies
Right.
is creating a song.
Right. It's called the music of the spheres, the harmony of the spheres, whatever. So it's an ancient philosophical concept that regards proportions in the movements of celestial bodies, the sun, the moon, and the planets as a form of musica, the medieval Latin name for music. The music's not audible, but it's a mathematical concept. So they believe that the vibration of this cosmic song exists within the numbers.
Mm.
That's how the Greeks thought, you know,
Mhm.
and the Egyptians too. But, you know, we know more about what the Greeks thought. The Greek philosopher Pythagoras is frequently credited with originating the concept, which stemmed from his semi-mystical, semi-mathematical philosophy and associated system of numerology of Pythagoreanism. At the time, the sun, the moon, and the planets were thought to revolve around Earth in their proper spheres. The spheres were thought to be related by the whole number ratios of pure musical intervals, creating musical harmony. The legend goes that Pythagoras could hear the music of the spheres, enabling him to discover the consonant musical intervals can be expressed in simple ratios of small integers. The tones correlated with the great celestial movements of the day. Pythagoras' concepts were transferred by Plato later and others into models about the entire structure of the universe. So based on these theories of the spheres and all this vibration and frequency stuff and all their ancient knowledge, they came up with these whole systems, you know, of thought based around this, which again, this is the kind of Greek thinking people that wrote the Gospel of John.
Right.
You know, so like that's what I want people to understand is like, you know, we read the Gospel of John. It's like the most famous, profound Christian text. It doesn't mean what you think. It's a mystical text. Pythagoras told the Egyptian priests that Thoth, the Egyptian deity, gave him the ability to hear the music of the spheres. He believed that only the Egyptians of the right bloodline, passing successful initiations, could enter the temples and learn the mysteries set in place by the gods at the beginning of time. To learn more, he had to win their confidence and needed to appear as a royal soul, begat of the gods and above the sins of man. So just really, you know, fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it is. It is really fascinating. And there's this this thing about music, right? It's in a lot of these creation stories. It's like some people, especially scientists, like to think that like, oh, right, music is, we love music so much as a human race because it's patterns and it's satisfying to our brains that we can audibly identify these patterns. And that's why we like music so much. I think it's way deeper than that.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Me too.
You know, you've heard a song that rattles your soul and it like it produces physical reactions from your body. Like it's so much more than satisfying patterns in our minds. It's like music
It's
resonates.
like magic.
It is, and it resonates with our souls. You know, not just the listening of music either, but if you take it a step further, if you are a musician or you experiment with instruments or music, there's this cosmic dance thing that happens where at a certain point you just, you know, when you're driving and you forget you're driving for a minute and then you're like, whoa, I'm driving. That happens with music too. Like you'll just be doing something and then you'll realize afterwards, like, did I just do that?
Yeah.
You did that last night.
Yeah, just dissociate.
Recording Twice Born. Yeah. That can't be explained by like, you know, nuts and bolts science. It's not that it's a pattern. It's deeply spiritually rooted and it's significant. So.
I agree, dude. It's like ever since we did that stuff about Rick Rubin, I've been thinking about that differently. It's like, you know, I always thought about like, do we create the music? I used to think that, but now I'm kind of like how you describe it. Like, no.
We capture it.
It's like what Plato said. It's the theory of forms, right? Like there's this invisible spiritual dimension that is the true eternal dimension. We're down here on the little shadow and we're thinking about these big concepts, but in reality, they are more real than we are. Like love is more real than we are. Truth is more real than we are. I'm going to die in 50 or 60 years. Truth won't.
Right.
10,000 years from now, they'll be talking about what's the truth?
Right.
You know, if they don't know it yet.
Right.
They'll be talking about, I love you, baby, to their girl on a first date. And then they might think that's a little too clingy and then push it to the side. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying, like, these concepts are more real than we are. They exist. They have an energy. The songs that people write or capture or whatever, I feel like maybe it already exists.
It does.
And we are just living our funny little material lives, sometimes accidentally, getting into the correct mental state to where we're like picking up on that from behind the veil and then bringing it in here. We're playing it, we're singing it, whatever. And now we're vibrating it out into the real world for others to experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's magic.
It's like musicians are messengers.
Yeah.
It's
muses.
Muses. Yeah. It's like the muses, you know, it's an abstract concept, but they're whispering to us the things from beyond the veil so that we can capture it and have a piece of it here.
Yeah.
It already is out there. Every bit of music that could ever be written is in the ether. It's between realms, swirling around, waiting to find a node in this realm to sprout through.
Yeah.
That's how Rick Rubin explains it.
I agree with that.
It's like, and if it's trying to find one and it finds somebody and they don't see it to fruition, it'll find another one and sprout on the other side of the planet, and somebody will be like, I wrote that. But it's not.
And to further that, so I mean, it's a spirit science episode, right?
Yeah.
We just off the top of my head, we can talk about morphogenetic resonance.
Oh,
right. How they do studies with like rats and monkeys. Like they'll take rats on one side of the planet, and they will, you know, put them through this series of complicated mazes or you know, whatever. A monkey will use a spoon, and then all around the world they start popping up, learning how to use tools. Or the rats on the other side of the world will be able to complete this difficult task that the rats on this side of the world took so long to accomplish. It's like that concept scientifically can be supported. Like,
yeah, there's also another example is a species of coral. There's one specific species of coral where no matter where on the planet that coral is, if it's been broken away from its like home or whatever, wherever it is, that specific species of coral instantaneously on the same minute, same day, they will all begin to spore at the same time around the planet on a cosmic clock. They don't care about time zones. They don't care about none of that shit. It's instantaneous. That's like another example of morphogenetic resonance. They're like a hive mind.
Right.
It's like a hive mind.
It's like consciousness is non-local, you know?
Yes, absolutely. All right, let me hit you. Let's get back on the rails with the frequency and vibration. Let me hit you with a couple really interesting quotes that I found first.
Okay.
Didn't know this, but Albert Einstein was he was real.
That's spooky
tapped.
action.
Yes. Like, I know he is obviously one of the most visionary, incredible scientists of all time, but I didn't know that he was also tapping into the spiritual stuff. I didn't realize that.
Right. It's not commonly known.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And this goes really hand in hand to the conversation we were just having about music. This quote by Albert Einstein says, "We're slowed down sound and light wave. We are slowed down sound."
Einstein said that?
Yes, wait. A walking bundle of frequencies tuned into the cosmos. We are souls dressed up in sacred biochemical garments, and our bodies are the instruments through which our souls play their music.
Hold up.
My boy was spitting.
That's a real Einstein quote.
Yes, 1,000%.
I've never heard that in my life.
Oh, bro. It shocked me. I've always been a fan of Einstein, and I've been fascinated with him. I remember it was like third grade for show and tell. I brought in, literally, I'm not joking, I wrote down like a breakdown of his equation on energy, E equals MC squared and all that stuff. When I was like 8 or 9, I watched a documentary about Albert Einstein, and I took notes on it and brought it in for show and tell because I thought I was smart. And I never knew that he was also tapped into the spiritual stuff.
I've seen some quotes before where he like generally talks about God, but I never. That's pretty deep.
Let me hit you with another Albie Einstein one.
Let's do it.
This is a quick one. Future medicine will be the medicine of frequencies. Future medicine will be the medicine of frequency.
Damn.
Meaning we can heal our bodies and bring our bodies into alignment through frequencies, through resonant frequencies.
I 100% believe that. Like in my experience, working with, I haven't personally been to Monroe, but my family has and have been dealing with people in that avenue and CIA scientists and other academicians, and just like seeing things that are not commonly known, how things happen, and like that. I just 100% believe that to be true.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like he's being a little coy with it. He's being a little poetic with it, maybe because he didn't want to be discredited by his scientific peers, but he's saying it. He's just being a little coy. All right, one more. Are you familiar with Eckhart Tolle?
Yeah.
It's a quote. Not until you surrender does the spiritual dimension become a living reality in your life. When you do, the energy you emanate and that then runs your life is of a much higher vibrational frequency than the mind energy that still runs the world. What's that?
I said, wow.
Oh, yeah, this is a quote more focused on manipulating your own vibrational energy and maybe the way that your vibrational energy is sensitive to vibrations around you. Okay, so let's get into the science. I mentioned earlier two things, quantum physics and string theory. Relatively recent developments in those two fields suggest that, like we said earlier, everything in existence is vibrating energy. If you want to go a little bit more in detail, string theory, right? It's this big button topic that all the leading scientists in the world are real hot about right now. And it's really began to emerge in the past few decades where they're making some serious ground. And it seems like this big, crazy, complicated thing. But, I mean, you know what it is? String theory?
Minimally. There's like 11 dimensions or something that are all entangled.
Right.
I don't know that much.
But the most fundamental, simple way to explain it is just that if you were to look in a microscope, the most powerful microscope you could imagine, and look all the way as deep as you could go past molecules, atoms, the smallest, tiny, most fundamental thing we can find are these teeny tiny little one-dimensional strings that quite literally compose everything in the known universe. There is not a thing in existence. The particles of air are strings.
But like, what do they say or theorize the strings are even made of?
Well, it's not about what they're made of. It's a quark, like everything, like any,
it's just like a kind of particle.
Exactly. Yeah. Imagine the very tiniest building block piece,
Right.
the tiniest thing that makes up everything. You know, you have atoms and molecules and things that we know as like really, really tiny, but what are those made of?
Right.
Strings. They're made of these tiny, like infinitesimally tiny little strings, and they quite literally comprise everything. Those strings are what are vibrating on the smallest, most microcosmic level.
That's very interesting. I've never heard it said like that before.
That's the easiest, most fundamental way to explain string theory. And let's just take that on face value for a second. We talk a lot about collective consciousness and how everything in the known universe is all the same thing. It's all connected. It's all one thing. That is scientific proof and backup that it's not bullshit. Literally everything is the same thing.
It's all made by the same primordial thing.
Yeah, it's these little tiny strings. And so we also know, now this is not, so string theory is still considered a theoretical science because from what I understand, they haven't published enough like confirmed peer-reviewed documents. You know, it's like formality type stuff. It's still considered theoretical, but it's, you know, it's legit. But one thing that is 100% science fact is that matter is low-key an illusion. I mean, it's just vibrate. It's particles that have slowed down enough to create an illusion of matter. That might sound fringe and weird and whatever, but this is verifiable. You can look this up. Everything, every piece of matter, including you, the carpet on the ground, everything around you is just particles that slowed down enough to seem like they are physical.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That actually brings me to my next point. There was something I wanted to talk about, cymatics. Because it's just perfect for frequency and vibration. So for those out there who have never heard the word cymatics, I highly recommend you go down a rabbit hole and you just go to YouTube and you type in cymatics, CYMATICS, and just start watching videos, right? So let me see. I wrote down when they discovered it.
Cymatics?
The 1700s. So there was this German musician and scientist named Ernst Chladni, who lived from 1756 to 1827, sometimes known as the father of acoustics. I'm not sure who Hooke is, maybe a mathematician back then.
Captain Hooke.
I don't know. I mean, I think we're talking about a different Hooke there, buddy. Almost certainly had access to Hooke's work, but it's Chladni who history has chosen to acknowledge for his major study of this class of phenomenon. So he would take a sandstone brass plate and he would take a violin bow. We're talking the 1700s. You know what I mean? He's a violin player or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he would vibrate the sand with the violin bow on the brass because it's a resonant material. Yeah, and it would start to make shapes. He found that there was this just repeating number of archetypal geometric patterns that could be created depending on where the edge of the plate, he could tip like how you play a violin, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And they're known as Chladni figures because his name was Ernst Chladni. Here's a diagram of I'm going to show to you. They won't be able to see it necessarily, but like all the archetypal shapes that he was discovering in the 1700s, by the way.
It must have been so mind-blowing.
Oh, yeah. It's like, what does it mean, right?
Right.
And then, as it goes on, time goes on. Hans Ginny studied visual sound. He's a physician, fine artist, pianist, philosopher, historian, empirical researcher. He was nicknamed the father of cymatics. Between 1958 and then his death in 1972, he conducted a wide range of experiments documenting the effects of sound and energy on various media. This is the inspiration for the exploration. Ooh, that's a tongue twister. The inspiration for the exploration into cymatics, which actually is really steeped in anthroposophy. Anthroposophy, which is the mystery system developed by Rudolf Steiner, which eventually we will
do an episode.
Yes, we'll do an episode on in the wisdom tradition segment because it's very fascinating stuff. But it basically the whole point of the Rudolf Steiner material and vibration and thought forms and what it was all about was that it's just the fact that human beings can intellectually access and uncover elements of an existing spiritual plane. Like we can sense these dimensions with our psychic faculties, and he was tapping into that, doing cymatics. So then it evolves over time. You get to Dr. Masaru Emoto. You know about that one, right?
Oh, yeah.
So what Masaru Emoto did, I believe it was in the 1970s, and I think he has since passed, but he would take water and he would freeze it into its crystal form, which is just ice, you know?
Mhm.
But he did like numerous repeated studies where he would say prayers or very positive chants or say things like love, peace, light, joy, gratitude, and he would freeze it, and he did it probably dozens or hundreds of times, honestly, and would get the same results. Where when he froze these ice crystals with the positive words, the geometric patterns in the ice crystals were harmonic. They were beautiful. They were pleasant to the eyes. Yeah, they're symmetrical. They were just beautiful.
Like snowflake.
Yeah.
Look like
Literally.
snowflakes.
Like, yeah, there's all kinds of images online of, that he produced doing this. But then he would say words like kill, death, plague,
I hate you.
curse. Yeah, I hate you. Stuff like that. And it would be these just disgusting images when he froze it and he studied the crystalline structure. So like there's this concept of like, what does that mean?
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, I have a kind of a follow-up to that experiment that was done by someone else.
Okay.
So, yeah, what does that mean? That would suggest that thoughts and words change the world around you.
But to me, that is like, I believe that to be 100% true, but I also wonder if it suggests the same thing as the music, where the words maybe already existed somewhere and mankind has been discovering them, and they might have some sort of prescribed meaning already. You know?
Absolutely. So from my perspective, it could mean one of two things, really. It could mean that. It could mean that those words exist in another realm and carry their own vibrational frequency, and they're consistent always. Or it could mean the intention coming from the person saying those words is creating those vibrations around them. There's no way to know. I mean, as far as current science stands, one day we'll be able to measure that and we'll know the answer.
Right.
But I believe it is one of those two. I think it is either, there are archetypal energies associated with everything in existence, including words.
Yeah.
And we can summon those down here by using those words. It's either that or it's your intention vibrating.
Words are literally just a vibration. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like when you think about it. But like, it's just weird to think about. Now we're getting into this really complex idea where like, wow, some vibrations are good for us, but some vibrations are bad for us.
Yeah, let's take that.
You know what I mean? What does it mean?
Let's take that a step further really quick. This is a little associated to the phenomenon of cymatics. Check this out. There's this interesting phenomenon that occurs when different vibrating things come into close proximity with one another. They will start to, after like a little bit of time, they will start to like sync up.
Entrainment.
Yeah. They will start to match each other's frequencies, you know?
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, they sync up. They'll begin to vibrate together at the same frequency. They sync up sometimes in a way that scientifically doesn't make sense.
You know what else does that?
What?
Metronomes.
What do you mean?
If you take like classic metronomes, the ones where they spin.
No way.
Yeah, they entrain.
They sync up?
Yes. If they're at the same BPM, but you start them different, they sync up. You know what else does that?
Analog metronomes.
Yes.
That's crazy.
You know what else does that?
What?
Crickets.
What?
Yes, throughout the night. It's called entrainment. That's why, dude, I'm so glad you said that. I want y'all to understand, like, we don't know each other's notes coming in.
Right.
It's all synchronous. It's like he brings what he brings, I bring what I bring, and it just fleshes out.
We don't talk about it until we get in here.
Before you go further, just real quick, this is described as the phenomenon of spontaneous self-organization, also known as entrainment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's crazy you say that, because the thing that you had asked me to talk about was like the theta waves and how those frequencies affect our brain, right? And it's the same concept as exactly what you just described. It's, what did you call it? Spontaneous organization?
Spontaneous self-organization.
Yeah, it's like, think about it. You take these different vibrations, right? And you just put them beside each other. Mm-hmm. And over time, they just begin to match.
They sync
right?
up.
That's what you said, right?
Yeah,
they sync up.
They sync up.
You know what else?
Which doesn't make sense scientifically. Like they're confused by this.
Right. But it makes sense to me because it's thermodynamics.
Right.
You take two different heat sources. Let's say you touch somebody's hand. This is just basic thermodynamics 101. You touch somebody's hand and you keep it there. Or, you have a I don't know, like cold water and you pour it on something hot. Anything that has different degrees of temperature, and you put them together.
They match up.
Yes, because the heat from whatever is significantly hotter will flow into the object, and eventually there will be an equilibrium. Now, I'm not talking like, oh my God, I put lava on my hand and it melts my hand off. I'm not talking about that.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, you touch somebody's hand, whoever's hotter, whoever's colder, your energy over time is going to equilibrate. It's going to flow into one another. So it's like that works with thermodynamics, but it also works with vibration, which heat is just vibration, really. When you think about it, it's energy. But like that's just got to be some sort of harmony.
Does it work with living with someone?
I mean,
I think it does. I think it does.
Yeah.
I really think you become similar
over time. Yeah.
And think about women's menstrual cycles. They sync up.
Yeah. If they're exposed to each other, and if they're around each other regularly.
Exactly. Yeah. If they're around each other.
And Nick, this is like when you're playing one chord on the guitar over and over and over, and the guitar across the room that's not being played matches the same chord.
Did you know it'll do that?
I think you told me that before.
If I have a guitar sitting right here and there's one over there, it's not like every single note, but let's just say this. Let's say I'm playing a high E on this guitar. The low E on that guitar will start to resonate.
Wow.
All across the room.
That's cool.
It's unbelievable. Okay. On the Masaru Emoto thing, I want to talk about an experiment that was conducted after that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because there was some controversy surrounding the Masaru Emoto experiments because like nobody's been able to replicate it the same way, which makes perfect sense to me because if we're talking about vibrational frequency coming from a person's mouth, their belief and intention has to be
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like it's obviously not going to work.
It's like with bending spoons, or it's like with anything.
The phenomenon.
Yeah.
They're not going to show up if you're.
You got to have the actual true intention and belief.
Do you know if he was doing it in English?
No, he's Japanese.
No.
So okay,
Japanese.
then that opens the door to other languages being more potent with energy.
Well, it's like Latin and Sanskrit have an energy to them that people are still beholden by. You know what I mean? And they're dead languages.
Good point.
I think there's something to that.
That the words that they're using hold a stronger value. Like we talk about, like the word love in the West is kind of like jaded.
It's got like 8 meanings.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's very like laissez-faire.
I love my homies, but I love pizza, but I love my mom and dad, but I love my wife, but I love video games.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in the
What's
East, there's 8 different words for that.
Right. Well, and in Greece as well, that there's like 4 or 5.
4.
Yeah, 4. Yeah. No, that's a great point. I didn't think about that. Well, Dr. Rebecca Marina, in an attempt to reproduce some of Masaru Emoto's findings, she actually got a hold of the same microscope that he used. It's called the dark field microscope.
Wow.
She studied her own red blood cells with the assistance of Dr. Farici. It's one of her colleagues. They studied and photographed her blood cells under different physical and emotional states. And this is what they found. This is crazy. When she was sad, her blood cells moved quickly and they became tear-shaped.
What?
When she was sad.
What?
I looked at all the photos. It's mind-blowing. Her blood cells were in the shape of perfect tears. When her emotions reflected great love, the shape and formation and the speed became normal. And no joke, her blood cells began to like sparkle.
What?
Like with these little flints of light that weren't present before. These little glints of light, similar to like when an egg is fertilized and there's a flash of light,
right.
Like little weird things like that. When she was anxious, her blood cells clumped together and they started moving all quickly.
Tension.
Yes. Yeah.
Tension. Yeah.
Which was identical to when they studied her blood cells when she was sick.
Wow.
So fear is like makes you sick.
Yeah. It's like dude, like just an example. My sister Emmy, it's her birthday today while we're recording too. So shout out Emmy, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Emmy!
My whole childhood, she was always involved with piano recitals and dances, and she how it was. Like she was always in these performances and stuff.
Always.
Like with a bunch of other young girls her age, 30 or 40 of them, and like it's just a well-known thing in dance or theater or music or whatever. Any sort of group of people that are like rehearsing for an entire season and then getting super stressed and then performing, the kids get sicker the more stressed they are. It's just true.
And it's another fundament of science, which is that we know that our thoughts and emotions, they cause our body to release different chemicals.
Yeah, like cortisol
Yeah.
makes us sick. They always say stress is a killer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It absolutely is. It's real. And I mean, that alone is very spiritual. And it's like very outside of this like physical world. Like if you're sad, your body starts to get sick. If you're stressed, your body starts to get sick. Like
Yeah.
that's weird.
If you're sad, your blood cells turn into teardrops.
shaped.
That one's got me kind of messed up.
Bro, I'll
Like-
show you. I'll show you.
Like
All right, this is the last experiment that they did, which is the most mind blowing.
it gets weirder.
Yes, for sure. So they were like shook by these results already. They're like, wow, this is crazy. It's time to bring in our colleagues to look at this. They brought in colleagues. They grouped her blood cells into like 4 or 5 different groups, right? Because they wanted to do controlled experiments across all these groups. The colleagues came in and they picked, I believe, 2 of the groups of blood cells, and the colleagues prayed over the blood cells.
Wow.
They prayed extensively for like an hour over these blood cells. Everyone in the laboratory, when the studies were finalized and they got all the data and collected it and presented it, everyone there was stunned because the blood fluid that was prayed over not only shined
What?
like bright, not just the little glints of light from before, but like it was like glowing.
But hold on. But we are talking about at a level that's so far beneath the detection of the human eye, right?
Oh, 100%.
We're talking about like microscope.
It's a dark field.
Okay.
It's called a dark field microscope. Is that it? A dark
Dark
field
field, yeah,
microscope.
yeah, okay.
Yes.
So it shines.
It essentially it completely blacks out everything behind it so that you could see things like this light and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they were able to see the flash from a fertilization of an egg. Was
Right,
from a
right.
microscope like this.
So it shined.
But wait, dude. This is insane. The blood cells separate from her body that were being prayed over, the light and the motion were pulsating at the same rate of her resting heart rate.
What?
Her blood cells on a plate separate from her body that have been separated for hours.
They're entangled.
They are. They're still connected. They're still. How is, you know, like there's no connection to everything in the human body that blood cells need to function. And yet they've been prayed over and they're glowing and strobing like a heartbeat in the same pattern as when they were measured when she was feeling peaceful.
Wow.
And the cells that were not prayed over weren't even moving.
See, that just makes
They
me
weren't moving. It was like the prayer extended the life
Yeah.
of the blood cells.
That makes me think really hard. Like there's so much stuff that like we don't understand. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's way crazier than the water thing with Miss R.
Oh yeah, for sure. And this was conducted to try to corroborate his findings. And like low key, there were some groundbreaking discoveries that weren't even realized before that came from this study.
It seems to me like if we're going to hit it from the spiritual angle, you know, reflecting on this kind of data, just like the thought that comes to my mind is like, there has to be, I cannot accept otherwise. There has to be some sort of underlying eternal law that is behind every layer of reality that like, everything is seeking harmony. Everything is seeking order. Everything is seeking unity. Dude, you got crickets in nature and training, metronomes even, freaking sounds. You got water crystals and training to the vibration of our words. You got your blood cells in a dish, you know, far away and training to your prayers and your it's like even heat is seeking to equilibrate. Sure, you know, we have skin and flesh and material matter that will burn, you know,
right.
and it can harm us on the physical level. But in reality, it's like there's like an algorithm. There's like when it seems like when everything was created, there was this algorithm that's like everything is seeking harmony.
Well, bro, even when you do get burned, the burn that results on your hand is the result of trying to equilibrate quickly enough, equilibrate quickly enough
Right.
to compensate, but it's too harsh. Even a burn is a result of trying to match up. It's trying because
Right.
it wants to protect you.
Because it's like yeah, exactly. It's like a law, dude. It's like I imagine that if we were to examine every kind of science, like molecular biology, quantum physics, heat, thermonuclear. I don't know all the terminology for all the different kinds of science, but I'm willing to find, like, to believe that we would find that everything is seeking harmony, and it's like that's kind of crazy because there's so much nihilism, there's so much atheism, there's so much just negative, fearful thinking about the state of the world and the way that it is, but like that's because it's perpetrated by us dummy, ignorant humans. But I feel like if we forget about that and forget about what we know, like I think what actually exists and what actually is like the higher spiritual realms are just harmony and love and light, and it's like everything. It's crazy to me, man. You're talking about blood cells are mirroring the state of the person when they're sitting in a dish.
A dish.
They're harmonizing with your emotions and your thoughts and your vibrations.
Even after separated from your physical body.
Yeah, it's like in reality, all phenomena truly are one.
Yeah.
We just can't see the big picture yet.
Or the tiny picture of
Yeah.
strings.
Yeah.
We're all just a bunch of strings.
But that is the big picture.
And how beautiful is it that it's strings that created everything?
Yeah,
it's
true.
Strings, it's music. That's because only a string can vibrate in such a pure way. Only
Wow.
a thin, fundamental, tiny building block of a thing can you manipulate so clearly to be able to resonate loudly. It's I think that's like the poetry of the universe. Like,
Right.
from strings we were made, and from strings we remain.
There is an ancient Hindu myth about, it's called Indra's net, right? Or you could say Indra's web, like a spider web or like a net that you cast out to catch fish. And you know how the shape is. It's just like, it's a bunch of strings intersecting,
Mhm.
you know, in a cross-like pattern. Not like V-cross, but like they're crisscross, you know? And the idea is that consciousness is symbolized by, if you lay the net out in the garden overnight, and then when the sun comes up, by that time there's dew, right?
Mhm.
So as the sun's coming up and the sun is shining on all of the drops of dew that exist equally on every intersection of the net. So when the sunlight is shining on the dew, the light from that sunlight is reflected evenly in every drop of water. So the idea is this net that's holding everything together, but where all those little nodes of consciousness at this intersection, all reflecting the same original light, right? So it's like, dude,
It's a cool analogy.
I really think that these ancients knew way more than we think they knew.
Yeah.
And they had these metaphors because they're a powerful mechanism to impact the mind throughout thousands of years, to take these really complicated concepts, simplify it in a way that will last for so many people to understand, you know?
That reminds me of Dune, the Bene Gesserit. They have a quote where they say, our plans are measured in eras, or our plans are measured in eons, like thousands and thousands of years, you know? They would like go to these planets and plant these concepts so that thousands of years later, when Paul finally showed up, they were like, that's the guy.
Right.
You know, it's insane. It's like tapping into the infinite knowledge is something that has been possible since the beginning of time. If you believe the universe is mental, then you know that ever since the universe existed, this knowledge has existed somewhere.
Right.
And it's obvious that people have been tapping into it forever. Thousands of years ago.
You can look at the Dogon tribe in Africa 5,000 years ago. Literally, they existed 5,000 years ago and still do today. And they're kind of like famous in the UFO research scene because they had all this material about having interacted with a type of light beings that they claimed came from the star Sirius, and like only the elder of the village could meet with them and receive the wisdom because it was taxing on the body, you know? So it was like, there was always this shamanic elder who was like this high priest initiate who would go and interact with these beings and then bring the information. But dude, check this out. they had diagrams, the Dogon tribe, right? They had diagrams that they depicted symbols thousands of years ago. Just for an example, one of those diagrams that they drew is the exact scientific model of a half-spin particle that was only developed in the last few decades. That was only discovered.
That's not possible with the brain alone.
5,000 years ago, dude.
Yeah.
An agrarian tribe in Africa.
That's unbelievable.
So these beings came down and told us all this stuff about the universe. And they had these symbols that I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it was like they had like certain repeated symbols that were very sacred to them. And it was like lines of water, and it represented like the waves holding together all of reality and earth and air. But they had all these esoteric meanings to them that were very scientific, that stuff we're discovering now. So it's like...
It's the same thing with the pyramids.
And that's just one example, dude.
Well, the pyramids, they're aligned to perfect, exact north, south, east, and west.
Right.
They're aligned perfectly to the Three Kings constellation.
Yeah.
They're aligned perfectly with like the dimensions of the planet. Like they represent an exact scaled down dimension of the planet. Like,
but dude, even the pyramids in like Mexico are in line with them.
Those pyramids.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, look, it's like, how else can you explain that? Like, yes, it's possible that they were extremely advanced architects, sure, but like more advanced than computers that we have today. I mean, maybe, but like to me, it's more believable that, you know, I'll just use my example as like being a musician. I pull things that I don't know where they come from. They just pop into my head and they come out, and that's it. I don't know how it works. It just happens. To me, I've experienced that, so I can believe people were experiencing that thousands of years ago in the field that they are interested in, architecture. They're pulling it from somewhere else, and they're like, whoa, hold up. And they might not have even known that those were the alignments that they were making.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like, but dude, then it's like you go all over the world and you see not only Chichen Itza with its incredible, you know, that's crazy. And then you have like, there's this place in Göbekli Tepe.
Yep.
It's hard to say. I can't even say it, man.
It's the Graham Hancock thing.
Yeah. You've got Petra, Jordan, right? That's like, I'm not even sure if it's one of the wonders of the world. I'm pretty sure it is, but it's like this insane, like laser precise architecture with these immaculate structures built into a canyon. You've got like all kinds
Stonehenge.
of Stonehenge. You've got like freaking God, what was the other one I was about to say? It was the Easter heads.
Oh yeah, Easter Island.
Easter Island. Yeah, you've got all these like architectural miracles that we literally cannot replicate today.
Yeah.
How are they doing that at different places in the world?
So my thought process there is that these civilizations were more advanced spiritually. So we could say that we're more advanced, but I think they were more advanced spiritually, and the spirituality leads them to the science.
Yep.
Whereas we're more advanced scientifically, and now we're coming around to finding where the science is leading us to spirituality.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that the other way is quicker. I think if you start with a spiritually advanced society, that the science comes easy.
I agree, dude.
That's a cool thought.
I agree.
That's a really cool thought.
And you just saying that makes me wonder, like maybe they were just truly significantly more spiritually advanced, and they had ways of like entering the spirit world for this high level knowledge or something.
Think about it. We talk about it all the time that we like, it seems to be designed that we are disconnected from spirituality.
Yeah.
We talk, you know, they didn't have TV. They didn't have the internet. They didn't have all these distractions. They didn't have these things lowering their vibrations. All they had was what existed around them.
Right.
And if you could tap into the hive mind and learn everything.
Yeah.
And know which way everything needs to be facing, oriented, what degrees of the earth it's on. You know, astral projecting yourself to view the degrees of earth, the longitude and latitude. And then communicating with other people across the world to do the same thing in the astral.
Yeah,
it's just a thought.
No, it's such a cool thought. It's such an interesting thought. I have a few more studies if we want to like rapid fire them real quick.
Yeah, sure. Because then I wanted to end on the brainwave stuff.
Okay, yeah, real quick. A few really interesting studies that I found. There was a study done in 2013 by BMC Psychology, which all of the studies that I pulled are peer reviewed. I took extra time to make sure that these are all peer reviewed studies that are 100% legit. This isn't bogus, random stuff. This is legit. They began in 2013 conducting a series of experiments where they conclusively proved that individuals did in fact raise the frequency of their bodies through positive states of mind, which in turn had positive effects on their bodies and minds, such as measurable reduce stress, pains being quelled, and significantly lowers of anxiety.
Okay.
Simple study. Your mind changes your body. We talked about it earlier. A way more interesting one that goes hand in hand with like the prayer thing from earlier. This is wild. This was conducted by the National Library of Medicine. 219 women who were considered to be infertile were treated with in vitro, in Seoul, South Korea. These women were randomized into distant prayer and control groups. The distant meaning the prayer was being conducted by prayer groups in the United States, Canada, and Australia. So this is across the planet. They're praying for these women in South Korea from these remote locations. The patients and their providers were not informed about the intervention. They were informed that an experiment was being conducted, but not that they were being prayed over as a control. Because if they know they're being prayed over,
placebo or bias.
Yeah, exactly. They wanted to eliminate any possibility of any of that stuff. The investigators and even the statisticians didn't know the group allocations until all the data had been collected. Thus, the study was randomized, triple blind, controlled, and prospective in design. They found that the women who had been prayed for had nearly twice as high a pregnancy rate as those who had not been prayed for.
What?
Furthermore, the women who had been prayed for showed a twice higher implantation rate than those who had not been prayed for. Thus, this study showed that distant prayer facilitates implantation and pregnancy.
Dude, it's like our mind really, truly changes reality.
Yeah, the universe is mental.
Yeah.
Your mind is your tool. It's your key to the universe.
I'm going to be up in here sending thoughts and prayers.
To who, Alex?
Who needs them? Drop them in the comments.
Well, who needs them? You're so stupid, dude.
You need them.
Yeah. You need them. Hey, everybody out there, please pray for Alex. He really needs it.
Not triple blind, but I'll take it.
Right. So in short, prayer works. Crazy. Doesn't matter where your prayer's coming from or who your prayer is to. It works.
I'm not sure if y'all know about this yet, but a few months ago, my dad actually did a thing. Like he did exactly what you just described, where he got involved with a group of women in Spain, the country Spain. Like he was introduced to her. She had like a local radio station there, and she, in advance, coordinating with my dad, she planned this event where she was going to do a radio broadcast locally, and over 200 people showed up to her location. And the idea was like, it was quantum entanglement. Because, for the first episode of History Channel, we did a whole segment where I was out there recording for like 4 hours, and we proved quantum entanglement, but they didn't air it because they had over 100 hours of footage, and they only focused on like the 2 or 3 segments that were in there, and they slashed everything else. They're like, we don't have enough time to set it up and give the proof in it.
But did they put it all online or something?
They were going to, but I don't think they did.
It's a lot of stuff. So maybe they still will.
They had 100 hours of footage. It's 42 minutes, but
right.
we actually filmed an entire thing, and it worked. I mean, we were able to prove, like, we were in Fayetteville. There was a group of people in Charlotte, and we were all seeing orbs do the exact maneuvers, the same thing. It was crazy. It didn't air, but it's okay. There's future opportunity.
Oh,
there.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so Dad did that. Aside from the History Channel, he just does it with anybody like that speaks to him in a certain way. He's like, sure, whatever. So he gets involved with this group of 200 people in Spain, and he's on the phone with them. And I heard the voice recordings from the lady who was running the broadcast. She's like, "Oh my God, we're seeing flashes of light, dude!" A whole crowd of 200 people out there. on the phone with my dad. They were seeing orbs flash, 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 flash. It's non-local, man. Like there's no distance between our thoughts and God and the spirit and the phenomenon. Like it's like it's all an illusion, you know? Like
there is no distance.
Yeah, there is no distance.
No.
There's really not.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about this realm as an illusion, the distance within it is also an illusion.
That's pretty mind-blowing. You're talking about people praying over women in Korea and they're getting pregnant at twice, a higher success rate. Like people from America praying across the world and it's working. Like that's insane.
Yeah, I mean, there were births as a result of this
Wow.
experiment. Multiple, many, like of the women who were prayed for. Like they actually had babies.
That's insane, dude.
Yeah, I got a couple more.
Okay.
Here's a quick one that's it's a pretty funny one. There was this French researcher, René Piach, I think that's it.
That was pretty good.
Thanks. The experiment involved a rudimentary self-propelled robot that normally wandered aimlessly and randomly around a room. It didn't have like a computer to decide where it should go or like no machine learning, none of that. Just a simple little robot that just kind of like walked around. It's like quote unquote dumb. It wasn't like a smart thing. She did an experiment where she filled a cage. They put the robot in a cage, filled the cage with a bunch of fresh born chicks that had yet to imprint on their mother. And they all imprinted on the robot.
Oh my God.
And they all huddled up around the robot and spent time around the robot. And as a result, the robot started, rather than wandering aimlessly, started only being around the chicks.
No way.
This is not a computerized, smart machine learning robot. This is a simple little, its legs move.
I don't know how I feel about this.
Yeah, that one's freaking me out.
Why?
Because it's awesome.
Yeah, well, think
Like,
about
how's that possible?
Well, think about all these little chicks. They are conscious little living beings. And they want, their desire
Right.
is to be around their mama, which is the robot. And that
It's reacting.
It's reacting.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's really incredible. It manifested dramatic change in the robot's movements and the intention of the chicks to be near the robot. It changed or gave the robot intention.
That's next level.
To stay near them. All right, here's the last one. Now, this one's very broad because this is an ongoing study that's been going on for like over a decade. So I'm not going to go into excruciating detail, but I'm going to tell you some of their findings. This is the University of California, Santa Barbara. They have this ongoing theory developing called the resonance theory of consciousness. It is peer reviewed, and everything that they have released has been peer reviewed and corroborated. And it suggests that resonance, another word for synchronized vibrations, talked about that earlier, is at the heart of not only human consciousness, but of physical reality as we know it. In summary, this paper provides foundational evidence, scientific evidence that suggests many things, including consciousness evolves through energy flows achieved through extended resonance. These energy flows are real and measurable and have been proven to impact the mind and the psyche. Let me explain a little bit, because I read this whole thing.
Right.
It took hours. Their theory, because an earlier, more rudimentary theory of vibration was that what causes difference in vibrations between different masses or different objects is their size, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what you would think. It's their size. A planet is huge, so it vibrates crazy and it has a crazy gravitational pull, yada, yada, yada. If you had me and a rock that weighed the same as me, they should technically vibrate the same. That's how science would explain it, at least. They found that that's not true. Because of the ways that our nervous system are made to literally pass signals and chemicals and waves to the rest of our body, they create actual measurable energy flows that change our vibration, our frequency, our output of energy. So a rock that weighs the same amount as you technically is supposed to vibrate the same, and it does not. We didn't know why before.
Right.
This study is getting down to the exact reason why, and they think it's because of these energy pathways and these energy flows.
Interesting.
those same energy flows are present in celestial bodies.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is very interesting. Did it say how they determined that?
No. I mean, it probably did. I don't have it written down here, but it's the energy flows that change the vibration, the frequency, and the way that body resonates with other things. And more so, what they concluded, we talk a lot about the evolution of consciousness, right? We talk about the fact that everything has consciousness, but why is a 5-year-old child's consciousness so much different than a rock that weighs the same amount of that thing? The theory that they are concluding is that by being around beings that vibrate through means of these energy flows, it causes neighboring consciousness to accelerate.
Well, dude, it's like what I called it entrainment, but what was it called earlier?
Resonance. Self-generation. The resonance of self-generation.
Again, it's like
organization. Sorry.
Yeah. You're around beings or people of a higher vibration, and it's that entrainment. It's like it's subconscious. It's passive. It's like it's just our energy naturally. It's like there's this algorithm that's causing everything to seek harmony.
Yeah, one of the things that I always thought was like, okay, blades of grass have consciousness, right? But like, are they just always going to be blades of grass? And like, how does that consciousness evolve? If our consciousness evolves, that would imply that all consciousness is supposed to evolve. How does a blade of grass?
Sorry to cut you off,
No.
But if I'm understanding you correctly, Nick, if I carried a rock around in my pocket, the same rock, for 3 years, should it vibrate at a higher level as another rock that I didn't carry around of the same weight?
I would say measurably, the change would be like probably very slight, because according to these theories, and
Make it 6 years.
I think we're talking about a little
Make
bit.
it a crystal.
Yeah. But according to these theories and this information, these evolutions of these more rudimentary consciousnesses, they take a much longer time to evolve because they are so rudimentary. They're going to take potentially hundreds, maybe thousands of years to evolve. It's
put on a very, very small scale. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I just want to make sure.
Maybe infinitesimally, I think yes, you would raise the vibration of that rock.
But it's like if you look at the esoteric material like theosophy or anthroposophy or Rosicrucianism, yada yada yada, they always have this. There's the mineral kingdom, there's the plant kingdom, there's the animal kingdom, and then the peak of material life is there's the human kingdom. You know, it's like they're different. It's like different planes of reality, different planes of
different
existence.
levels.
Yeah, we all coexist, but like, yeah, we're on a different level than the rocks and the plants and the animals. It's like, I don't know. It makes sense to me. Like they are evolving, but at a much slower, longer scale than we are. Because I tend to think sometimes that like the universe exists to be experienced.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like by consciousness. Like
right. That's the whole point.
It's not an accident.
No,
it's meaningful and it exists so that we come here into this realm from the spirit world and we come here to experience it. But I do think that there are those elements like the rock kingdom, the mineral kingdom, the plant kingdom, the animal kingdom, where like they're experiencing it too, but in the same way they're also like kind of part of the program in a way that's a little different from the way we are. You know what I mean? Like in the sense that like we're coming here to evolve through the spiritual laws and to understand that because we are made in the image of God, right? We have that spark. But then I think like they do too, but they don't have the same level of advancement that we do to understand it and rapidly evolve like we do.
Exactly.
What's interesting is when you parallel that against how long you get to experience it, where the rock doesn't have the same experience that I have, but the rock will be here for a far, far longer time than I will.
Potentially millions of years.
Which is to scale why it takes so much longer for that consciousness to evolve.
Yeah,
because their lifespan is so much longer.
Yeah.
A rock, it's going to be here for potentially millions of years.
Yeah.
So it's going to evolve way slower.
I'm going to throw that thing into space.
And guess what? It'll still be existing in space, but you won't.
Space ain't real.
So anyway, to anybody interested, that specific ongoing study is particularly fascinating to me because we got to pack all these concepts into like hour and a half episodes and explain this stuff on a big scale. Whereas this University of California, Santa Barbara, this study is trying to do it all the way from the biggest scale to the very, very smallest scale.
That's cool.
In an attempt to explain every single fundamental of science through the lens of consciousness.
Y'all want to know something crazy? There's an official.
That's my last study.
There's an official PhD being produced right now by the. Let me look up the name of this university real quick. It's very cool. I think it's called the California Institute of Human Sciences.
Hey, Alex. I think
what's up?
It could be cool to put your theory to test about the rocks. And all we got to do is find some expensive machine that can measure its vibrational frequency.
That's it. That's all we got to do.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting here thinking, we brought all these rocks back from the moon, but did we take any rocks to the moon?
Oh, shit. That'd be an interesting experiment, too.
No, I mean, just like on principle. Like,
on principle. We got to stand on business. Like, we're going to take your rocks. You're going to get some of our rocks.
Right.
Yeah. It's
in case the moon is a halfway point for some other, then they can get some Earth rocks without going all the way to Earth.
It's like we'll set up like a farmer's market on the moon.
Yeah.
We can trade.
Ooh, do you remember when the story when the pig jumped over the moon?
I do.
I thought it was a
cow.
We're right back to pigs.
Yeah. They're smart, they were on the...
Yeah, they were in space evolving into wild boar, space boar.
Yeah.
jumping over the
moon. Moon boar, bro.
Yeah.
they're big. It's the California Institute for Human Science. They were founded in 1992. They are a regionally accredited nonprofit mind, body, spirit university, but they have like PhDs there developing a real PhD program on consciousness and the paranormal and things like that.
Awesome.
And they're like involving my dad with the official program.
Oh.
They're putting him on the official advisory board.
Oh, that is sick.
So like it's just crazy, but I thought y'all would like that. So the last thing I wanted to bring into the equation here was the brainwave states, because it's just simple frequency conversation. But in psychology, there are 5 known brainwave states. And it starts from lowest to highest, lowest being delta, which is like deep sleep, like REM sleep. You're not dreaming. It is the slowest brainwave. And then you have theta, which is like 99% of humans only ever experience theta when they're dreaming at night, asleep, or moments before you fall asleep and moments after you wake up. Your brain can still be in that theta very briefly, momentarily, or otherwise the first 7 to 8 years of the human life, our brains are constantly in that state, which makes sense. It's why kids are so teachable. They absorb information. They're constantly in that brainwave state, and everything is so magical. Woo!
It also makes sense.
I'm Spider-Man, little kids.
According to the phenomenon, your dad says all the time, like, little kids are magnets, and Leah and Jonah out there like summoning orbs, like without even trying.
Right.
They're little magnets.
But how little kids, like, I believed I could do a Kamehameha. You believe it. Your imagination is so powerful, and it's like you're in a different brainwave state until about 8. Otherwise, that experience, that brainwave frequency is only ever outside of those conditions. It's only experienced in deep levels of meditation. Then the next brainwave state is we got delta, theta, alpha, which is like you're relaxed, but you're awake. It's just a very relaxed state, light meditation, or just, maybe you're getting a massage or something that's really calming. Then you have beta, which is like I'm at work, I'm on the computer, I'm alert, I'm driving, things where your brain is alert. And then you have, let's see, I got to say it in order. That's how my brain works. Delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma. Gamma is that final wave state where it's very high brainwave frequency and it's like extremely alert, extremely focused, right? Okay. So again, for those out there who might not have seen the episode, this blew my mind because when Dad was in that state where he was able to demonstrate, the orbs being there and the communication and all that. They did all that with the brainwave study. It revealed that his brain was completely in theta. And that's particularly fascinating because the neuroscientist there was like, this is a state that's only ever observed in like Zen monks, like master meditators, master Zen monks who have devoted their entire life to Zen meditation. They achieve theta brainwave states. And I just started thinking about it more and more and like doing more research on it. And I was able to find that like, that is true. They have observed monks. It's real studies.
Oh, yeah.
And they're in theta wave state when they're in deep levels of meditation. And then, the more you research about theta, it's like, we're asleep at night and our body's repairing, it's healing, right? That's why it's important to get good sleep. Your body's repairing while you're asleep or whatever, while you're in that brainwave state. And I'm like, huh. And there's all this research out there about how the theta brainwave state enters this regenerative cycle where the body is like, it's healing, And then through my individual involvement with, the Monroe Institute and the CIA and all these other organizations, Project Stargate, the people who developed the program for remote viewing and astral projection and all that, they're very big into binaural beats, which is essentially you're listening to these theta wave frequencies and putting your brain in this state of consciousness where these so to speak magical feats are possible. So for the past maybe since August, I think, like since the episode came out, and I was really like, oh my God, I that's crazy, I've been listening to theta wave frequencies every day, literally, like been going to the gym, been meditating every day, been practicing drums more. I'm finding like the more I listen to theta, the more my wife tells me like you're glowing, like I do things. I just feel like I'm able to push through certain boundaries that I may have had in my mind.
Mm.
And the only thing different is I started listening to theta waves every day. And I don't know, like I think that's something out there that people should explore. We have all this talk about frequency and vibration, and it's like, well, cool. Well, we have all this fringe data that's showing that like the magical brainwave state is theta. Well, why wouldn't you put some headphones in and what did you call it? Self-organization?
Yeah. Resonance of self-organization.
It's the same concept. Your brain, I forgot to even say that, your brain, just from listening to these tones, it naturally entrains to the frequencies. So it's like, why wouldn't you do that? Try it out. But
yeah, like we have these measurable states of brain waves. We know that they are in fact vibrating at different frequencies. And those different frequencies have different effects on our mind and body. And we also know, because we've covered it in this episode, that entrainment is real. Like vibrations, frequencies will sync up to one another when exposed, over time. And so naturally, you can conclude from all of that, you can put your brain in a different state, a different vibrational state, by trying to make it sync up and resonate with theta frequencies.
But you don't even have to try. You just got to hear it.
You just do it.
For an extended period of time. You just turn it on. Dude, I have these headphones. And not everybody has to go, drop bank on like these expensive headphones. But I'm lucky because through my job as an insurance agent, I was able to write it off. And, it was like making a lot of calls. So I was like, I got a really nice pair of headphones. You don't need a nice pair of headphones. But I am lucky in the sense that mine have the transparency mode where I can just turn the frequency on at kind of a low volume and go about my day. I'm doing dishes. I'm going to the gym, whatever. I can play video games, turn the volume up on the TV and still hear the frequency. Whatever I'm doing, I can listen. And I'm just finding like the more I sit in that state, the more naturally I'm just able to do some of the things that I would have to previously think really hard about, like wanting to do.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. It's like training the brain. It's like, also, I'm just wondering if the more we expose ourselves to that state, does it train our brain to get there more rapidly and stay there for longer periods of time? That's what I'm interested in. It's like the more I'm there, do I have more benefits? You know what I mean? Can I stay in that brainwave state longer? I don't know. But I know my wife she was dating me 2 years, never had her first paranormal experience until she started listening to the theta waves.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had messages from other people listening to the show after we've recommended them multiple times that they've said, I took your recommendation, I went and started listening. holy crap, now I'm seeing orbs. So many things are happening. So like, I'm thinking like we can use this knowledge to better ourselves.
Oh yeah. I mean,
You know
that's
what I
the
mean?
goal. That's, enrich your own life, change your life, completely transform everything around you. Like, yeah, I mean, I've done it and it has profound effects. And there are different theta waves for different like things that you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
Manifestation.
Because it's a band of frequencies on different ranges.
And every time that I've used, those frequencies or those tapes or whatever for specific things, like it achieves what I was trying to do.
Try it out. When you're meditating, when you're praying, whatever, studying, it doesn't matter. Try it with the theta wave frequencies. Pray.
Try it out.
Meditate, whatever. But that's all I got. I'm happy with
That's
it.
all I got too. We gave y'all a long episode today. We appreciate y'all tuning in with us. This episode 2 of Spirit Science. This was awesome.
Nick, what do you do if you want to support the show?
You go to bledsoesaidso.com or patreon.com/bledsoesaidso. If you go over there, you get all kinds of cool stuff. You get the episodes early. You can join our Discord server, which we just did an amazing game night. It was so much fun. We had a bunch of people in there. We played like Cards Against Humanity and Quiplash. And I mean, it really couldn't have been more fun for us to hang out with like a good like 30 of our real cool hardcore fans that had the time to make it to this event and just literally have fun with you guys we were on there for hours.
Yeah, it was epic.
Yeah, we do all kinds of events on our Discord. It's just a cool little community, like this little closed off community where if you want, you can join it. There's like 300 people in there and we're all like-minded. Everyone's so supportive and sweet. And it's like one of the things I'm most proud of about this project. It's a $5 thing on Patreon. If you come over, you get the episodes early. You can join the Discord, join all these events with us.
And
you get a whole nother episode or a whole nother show.
Yep.
Yeah. Full disclosure.
Yeah.
It's just Ryan and me and cutting it up.
Yes. Yeah. So if you are, if you love the show, but you hate me.
Well, that's okay because there may or may not be some other stuff that we're working on anyway that might include you for people that love you.
Yes. Okay. And
I love you.
And full disclosure, thank you. I love you too. Full disclosure is amazing. It's a whole different vibe. It's just Ryan talking about what's going on that week. It's more current, more topical. So like, yeah, it's totally, you get all kind of stuff for $5.
Surprisingly emotional.
Yeah. I mean, it's good stuff.
I'll before we start recording, I'll be like, Alex, I promise not to get too deep today. And then about 30 minutes in, I'm like,
oh no, that happened.
That happened the other
this
night.
week. He's like, yeah, let's just keep it real light this time. Like, I'm just feeling good. Let's keep it light. And then we get down in the trenches.
I mean, whatever is going to come out is going to come out. Whatever needs to come out.
Yeah.
Going to come out.
That's the vibe.
So it's like kind of cool and candid in that way. Like,
Alex, the last thing that really I have on my mind, and then I'm just so thrilled I could kiss y'all. I would like you to direct the camera attention to you.
Oh, God. Okay, done.
Love that shirt, boy.
Love that shirt.
Thank you, man.
It's
pretty awesome.
Yeah. It's your iconic Alex podcast shirt, and you will be wearing that for the rest of eternity on this show, yes?
The rest of my life, yeah.
No, eternity.
Yeah.
It's a little longer than your life, but we'll get there.
Maybe I'll give it to The Rock.
Dude, yeah, like when our descendants, we're going to pass
like Dwayne
this down
Johnson?
very,
I mean, if he wants one, hit me up,
very carefully. We're going to like take very good care of that shirt, and we're actually going to mummify you upon death. And we're going to pass that down to your descendants, and we're going to train all of our descendants to search for your reincarnation. And for every cycle for thousands of years, that shirt will exist through the ages.
Wait, it sounds like I'm the Avatar.
No, you're Link. You're Link from Zelda. It's the tunic.
Yeah.
We're always going to pass it down.
Tunic, yeah.
That's you, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
All right. We love y'all. Thanks for tuning in. 3, 2, 1. Bye, guys.
Guys.
Okay.
Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more, check out our other videos.
And before you go, don't forget to subscribe. See you next week.
Peace.